Today I'm going to show you how to make these 6 clean and simple with sympathy cards. We're going to start with this one. I'm making it in different colors because I'm making it for a special group of family members of mine. So let's get started with this one. Okay, this is all you need to make this card. I printed a so sorry sentiment on my computer, and I'm going to make the base card with this section of it. I'm going to grab my paper cutter, cut this at 4 1/4, and at the same time I'm going to cut out this. Now I want this sentiment to be just about 3/4 of an inch under the actual card itself, so I'm going to cut it right there. All right, so I'm going to literally line up that mark that I made here with my line on my paper cutter and cut it. Then I'm going to cut it at 5 1/2 this way, and the last cut I'm going to make is to get it at the width of this, which is 1 3/4, or just above 3/4. So I'm gonna break out my other paper cutter, and I want it starting around here, really close to the so sorry, and I'm gonna actually cut it at 2, and I'll tell you why. In case there's any excess, I can always cut it off after. So this is everything you need to make the card right here. You also need a rounding tool. So let's leave the card here so you'll see us make it again. So I'm gonna fold this in half. I'm not gonna bother about scoring and burnishing today. I can't even find my bone folder. Okay, there it is. There's my bone folder. I'm gonna fold this in half. So what you do with this one is we're gonna round the corners of this, and I'm gonna, right, so we want this card to look like this. Now we're gonna start building the card. I'm gonna take my corner rounder around the side of this one, and this will match up perfectly to it. We're gonna put some glue at the back, and stick it on. You're lining it up at the bottom here, at the top, and you're sticking it down. Perfect. Then we're going to take this piece, we're going to put some glue at the back. I'm going to line it up just against this one, like exactly against it, and stick it like this. And then I'm going to take this that we just cut beautifully, and I'm going to round the other side, obviously, and we're going to stick it on. Remember, we left a little bit, we left it a little to hang over, so we're going to see how much it hangs over and how much we could we have to cut off again. So it's hanging over a little bit here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this in my paper cutter. I'm going to put it in my paper cutter. I'm going to line it up at 4 1/4. I'm going to open it and round that corner again. And now it's perfectly rounded. Look at that. So what I like about what I'm able to show you here is how you could actually use different colors, coordinating colors to make the same card very much so beautifully. So now we're going to install this. We're going to mark it up, and I don't want it to be too long because that looks, it's just too long. So I'm going to actually cut it at an angle right down here like this, and we're going to add it to make it look like it's coming from the so sorry. So that looks good to me. I'm gonna stick it down now. So to stick it down, I'm just gonna put some dots of glue on the leaves themselves, just a couple of the leaves. I'm gonna line some glue in here. I'm gonna grab my tweezer. I'm gonna put this down first to make sure I like where it's coming from. And then I'm going to stick down some of these flowers here. Make sure it's flat and beautiful. The next card we're going to make is this one. And let's go. As usual, I'm going to just leave it up here so that you can see how I make it. I'm going to score this in half. And the first thing we're going to decorate is the strip of vellum. I have 3 pieces of florals here, and I'm going to basically decorate it based on these florals. So what I like to do is I like to mock up the florals first, cut them, and then add different ones. So we're going to mock up these to see how it looks. Yeah, that looks good. So I'm just going to make a small mark at the top and the bottom here. And you don't want to put any glue at all at the back of vellum, because then you'll see the glue. And since part of this has to be in under the other section, I'm just going to put a little tiny glue bit of glue here. And then because we have all these beautiful leaves here, I'm just going to dot some glue at the back of the leaves only, because if you put it behind the vellum, you're going to see the blotch of glue, and that does not look very nice. And now I'm going to stick it based on these lines that I created here. Make sure it's square and stick it down. And if you're like me, I make mistakes and it comes above a little too much here. Just going to open it and take your scissors and cut off the bit that comes above your card so that it's flush. You see that? So now we have a perfect sort of border here, and now we can install everything else, which I'm going to install it all the way to the end of the card like this. However, I want to put it up on I want to raise it off the card a little bit, and I don't want these to get in the way because these are already original of the card. So I want to put my foam here and here. So I have my foam tape, and I'm going to take this off. And I'm going to eyeball this at around, well, I'm not going to eyeball it, I'm probably going to put it around like just above a half of an inch. And once you end up here, it should be fine here. Yep, exact. Alright, that's it. And now we're just going to add some pearls. So you're going to make this card, and we're going to make it in this color. I'm going to start by creating the flowers because I have to use these flowers for this card and another card, so I'm going to just create the flowers first. So to heat emboss, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take some baby powder. I don't have an embossing buddy or embossing tool, so I literally just take some baby powder and I rub my paper with the baby powder just with an old piece of fabric. Then I'm going to take my first mark and my 2 beautiful floral stamps. I'm going to stick it on a acrylic block. I'm going to pick up some ink and lightly press it on my paper. Do not press too hard, otherwise you're going to blotch your paper. So you're finished with your Versamark and your stamping for now. I'm going to grab my embossing powder and I'm going to pour that embossing powder all over my florals. I'm going to just shake it around a little bit so it can get over everything. I'm going to pour it back in here. And then wherever I missed, I'm going to do it again. And then pour it back in here. See? Beautiful. And I'm going to turn over my paper. I'm just going to literally get rid of all the excess by just tapping the back of the paper. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to heat emboss these amazing florals. You see that detail on those florals? So to heat emboss, you're going to start by going in circles about 4 or 5 inches away from your piece of paper. So I'm going to keep going in circles. You'll see it starting to heat emboss already. Look how amazing that is. You see, so it's going from looking pale to a bright white. Then I'm going to turn this over and do it on the back of it so that if the paper, so the paper wouldn't warp actually. Turn it back over and run it again. I'm going to change where I'm holding it because wherever I was holding it, it wouldn't heat emboss properly because I don't want to burn my hands. If you don't want to hold it with your hands, you can always use a tweezer. Pick up your paper and heat emboss it using the tweezer. But I really want you to see what I'm doing, so I'm going to hold it. And I'm accustomed anyway to holding my my paper, right? So this is heat embossing really well. You see it gets bright white. Remember how it was looking before? It's white and shiny, and just make sure all of your embossing powder is melted in to the paper. Right, so I think we're done here. It looks amazing. I'm going to turn up my heat gun and I'm going to die cut these flowers out. So I have these 2 dies that you have to match up. So you see how the die fits perfectly in the flower now? This is the die for this flower. To stick this down, I'm actually going to use some washi tape. And then I'm going to run it through my Big Shot machine. And this should have cut out. Let me see. Perfect. So that's one flower. And I'm going to go ahead and die cut the rest of these flowers. So let's make this card. I'm going to put the card up here as usual so you can see what we're doing. And we're going to go ahead and pop this card on. We're going to take this and I already embossed this. You're going to score at 1 1/4 and 5 1/2. That's your score lines for this. I'm going to fold this in first and burnish. Then I'm going to fold this in, make sure it reaches, hold it down and burnish. Right, so we have our card here. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to install this embossed piece just like so. Then I'm going to grab my florals. I'm going to use this one, and this one. I'm going to put a big dab of glue in the middle of them, like this. And I'm going to add some pearls to the middle. And now I'm going to install these 3. Now our flowers are obviously sticking on this side of the card like so. So I am going to install them at about a 1/4 inch away from each other. So I'm going to leave my measurement here. And I'm going to drop a dab of glue. Remember with Vellum, you don't want to put glue here because you might see it. So I'm just going to put a drop of glue on these things here. And as I said, I want a 1/4 inch down. So I'm measuring a 1/4 inch and then I'm sticking it here. I want to make sure it's not getting into this. Right, if you want, you can take a scrap piece of paper and slip it in here so that you don't have to get the other one dirty. You want to grab this here like this, so I'm putting it on top of here and I'm going to put a dot of glue again. Now we're going to do this card, so let us get this card done. We're going to move these things, and I'm going to score this in half. 4 1/4. Finish. We're going to take this piece and stick it on like this. The first thing we're going to install is a square. So we're installing a square. So to install this square, I'm going to grab my T-square ruler and I'm going to mark this up. I want it, let me leave my ruler up here and let me see where I want it. So I want it about 1/4 inch, 3/4 inches up, and 1/4 inch across. So 3/4 inches up will be maybe right here, right? So I'm going to leave it there, and then 1/4 inch across. Actually, wow, yes, this is perfectly 1/4 inch. So I'm going to bring in my T-square ruler and bring it down, and I want this to be perfect on these two corners. So I'm going to leave my T-square ruler here. I'm going to lift this up and realize that I want it at 1 1/8. Leave my T-square ruler there, put some glue on this, then I'm going to take this and basically slip it right back in there, just lifting it a little bit so I can get it in and not drag the glue on the ground, on the card I should say. And right, and my T-square ruler is going to help me make sure this is perfectly installed, and that's exactly where I want it. That looks good. And now let's actually build the card. So the first thing you're going to put in is this floral piece here, this leaf feature. I'm going to run some glue up the stem and pop some glue on some of the leaves, and I'm going to install this right from the bottom here. Right, the next thing we're going to put in is our flower, and our flower is going smack in the center of this square, so it looks not good here. I'm just eyeballing it, and I'm going to put it right here, stick it down. We're going to have our butterfly. I'm going to put this here to make it 3D and just bend this up. Now butterfly is 3D. I'm going to put some glue here, and I'm going to put the butterfly just above right here. Get this gem on my butterfly. That looks really beautiful. Now I'm going to get my sentiment rounded at the edges. Right, so my sentiment is done, and then I'm going to put my sentiment right here. I'm going to put some glue, and this sentiment is going to be stuck flat on the card like so. Okay, so this is the card we're going to make now, and I've pre-cut some of them, so I'm just going to show you how I pre-cut it, and I'm going to cut the last one so you can see how to cut it, right? So to cut this, I'm using a stitched rectangle die. I am going to square off this on this card, right? So I'm going to measure it at 7/8 of an inch this way and 7/8 of an inch this way. Just about 1 inch. So you see, on each of these sides, it's 1 inch from the end of the paper to the inside of the die cut. I like how it is from the top to the bottom, so I'm not even going to touch that. I'm going to take some washi tape as usual and stick this down. So let's pull this off here, and we have a perfect rectangle cut there. That looks really, really nice. It's equal on each side. So let's get to making this card. We're going to build this first, and then we're going to put it on the base. For this base, I'm just going to fold this because this paper is fairly lighter than the other paper I was using with that I had to score first. So I fold the paper in half, and I have my card base here. Now I'm going to build this section of it here, right? So for these, I took a piece of paper just like how I took this, and then I took a die and cut it out. I would add all the rectangle sizes and the sizes of the paper in the description box for you. All right? Okay, so let's get to building this card. The first thing we're going to do, we're going to turn this over, and we're going to put some glue on the perimeter of the opening here, or surrounding the opening. And then we're going to take this and we're going to square it off here, and then turn it over and make sure it's, yep, perfect, right? Right, that's great. Now we're going to do the same thing for that, except I'm going to show you another way to do it now. This time we're going to put the glue on this one. I'm just showing you different ways. So you could put it on the back of the other one, you could put it on the front of this one, and take this and do this. You see what happened there with my glue? Of course I'm going to just wipe it out, and it's not going to make a big difference because this glue dries clear, but I like putting it on the back because then you don't get that issue with the glue being on. So I did that on purpose so you could actually see what happens, right? So of course now I'm going to go back to the right way, which I consider the right way of doing it, which is to put it on the back here first, and then perfect. See that? All right, now I'm going to take this and I'm going to dot some glue just on the end of the leaves. I think leaves are really nice. I don't necessarily like florals for with Sympathy cards, although like here I use a vellum flower. It's white, it's a very clean flower. Sure, that could be okay, but I don't like 3D flowers and really fancy flowers for with Sympathy cards. I like to keep it really simple for with Sympathy cards because the person is grieving. You don't want anything too dramatic to give to them, you know. It's just so sad. That's perfect. See, now I want this risen off the card, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my tape here and I'm going to actually add tape to install this card. And if you did like me and did something a little too close here, you could always just cut it off. See, and now you can't see. Right. I like making mistakes on screen, and I'll tell you why. Because it shows you that everyone can make mistakes. Even if you consider me to be a professional card maker, I make mistakes all the time. The key is knowing how to fix your mistake so it doesn't look like a mistake at the end of the card. Right? So let's install this. You have the right way the card is folding, and I'm going to literally add this to the top first because I know how much of the card I want showing, and then I'm going to drop it on. Right, now you can add a sentiment to this if you want to. Something right here would look beautiful. Look at that. Right, something down here or here. I am not adding a sentiment because I think this card just speaks for itself, and I don't think you always need a sentiment. It's just my opinion, and the card is just so beautiful. I don't think it needs one. So this is everything you need for this card, and let's get started. So I'm not even gonna score this. I'm just gonna fold this because this paper is pretty, it's not as heavy as some of the other cardstocks I use, and we're recreating this card. Right, so remember this card? So we use this die cut here to cut this out of here. We're not going to waste this. We're actually going to use this to build another card. So if you look at it, it's perfect. It fits in there. This one is perfect for here. See? And this is perfect for here. So it's really great that you get 2 cards out of using all those die cuts. So let's put this down like here, and we're going to use this amazing, look at this paper. This is amazing. Right, so we're going to stick this on. Right, so we're going to stick this on here. It's nice and square. Right, perfect. Now we're going to build this. So we're going to rest this aside. We're going to build this, and we're going to start with adding this to this.